Ah,
Welcome, everyone. We're going to do a recording just so we can keep that on our multifamily website page for reference for folks for a little while. I'm Jan Culbertson, and I lead the 2030 district in Ann Arbor, and I think many of you are members, so we'll welcome. And we're starting in webinar format. And there are two sections to the presentation. One, Kevin's going to start out. And if you have questions as Kevin is talking, if you use the raise your hand icon, I can see that, and I can give you, I can have you go ahead and I'll give you permission to talk, and you'll be able to ask a question or whatever. So it can be sort of an exchange, because we want this to be kind of a practical learning opportunity for everybody. And then at the end of Kevin's presentation, we'll bring everybody in as a panelist, and so we can have more of a meeting discussion. And if you have some additional questions or some things that you'd want to share that have worked for you to work on your weatherization energy efficiency items. Also joining us today is Doug Kelly, who is our contact with DTE for their multifamily programs. And in my presentation, I'll touch on benchmarking and some resources that you can use both for sort of outreach to your tenants. And then we'll have another sort of opportunity to answer questions or share resources at the end of my section of the presentation. Okay, so with that, Kevin, do you want to get started? And again, please feel free to raise your hand. I can then just sort of allow you to talk. If you prefer not to talk, you can use the Q&A down at the bottom of your screen and type in a question. All right, with that, take it away, Kevin.
all right. Good afternoon, everyone. So I'm going to share my screen. And Jan, can you see that?
We are good.
Okay. So we're going to be kind of going over improving the efficiency of an apartment and a building at turnovers, or whenever you're doing any maintenance improvements, additions. Yep, that's right. Okay. So this is kind of going to be the agenda. Introduce myself, go over the unit envelope and the building shell, which is really going to be the lion's share of where the improvements can be made, and then talk about the appliances and the mechanical systems. So I founded McNeely Building Group as a residential building company in 2005. When the house that I grew up in was, the room that I was in was always cold. It was a nice house, but it was always cold in the wintertime and unbearably hot in the summertime. And so I kind of wanted to figure out how to make buildings better, which led me to start building. And then I saw a greater need for somebody that had the expertise in building performance. So I started earning various credentials, and I'm always in, I shouldn't say I'm always in, but I am in training 3 or 4 times a year for a couple weeks at a crack. So it's a young profession, building sciences, but it is and it is also a moving. We're always learning. It's a changing thing. So buildings leak. Well, let me back up a little bit. So a building is always going to use the same amount of energy, a fixed amount of BTUs, and there's only 2 ways to reduce the number of BTUs that a building uses. One is through air sealing, and the other one is through improving the insulation. When you the cooling or the heating to the building. When it comes to reducing the BTU use for the building, air sealing is the cheapest but most complicated way to do it. Air is lazy. It always takes a path of least resistance. So here's an illustration showing all the different paths of air leakage just through the ceiling plane. And then you have probably as many going through the wall and several going through the floor also. So in every building, we have two locations for air barriers. One is the exterior of the building, your sheathing, your brick, doors, windows. And then on the inside, it is the drywall, ceilings, and floors. The object is to try and stop the air moving through either one of those two planes. We're not going to get it 100% perfect, but we want to reduce it as much as we can. And then here's these are all brand new buildings. So here on this picture in the upper left, you can see air leakage. If you can see daylight, that's going to be a spot for air leakage to get into the wall cavity. So down here we have a structural member, and they notched around the structural steel. Our HVAC contractors, they obviously have to cut holes in the sheathing, but we need to get this air sealed up. We can use, I'll get into materials and products that we can use later on. And again, so we need to not only seal the shell of the building, the exterior walls, but we also need to seal the interior walls. So here's a steel framed building where we have air leakage in the sheathing, and we're going to have air movement that comes through all the holes in the studs here. So it's going to be able to move through interior walls, and wood framing is the same. It's just not as obvious in wood framing. This picture in the upper right is where they were supposed to butt two panels of sheathing together. And for whatever reason, the framers didn't do that. And we have a 2.5-inch gap, and that is an interior wall. That's a demising wall between units. So we need to try and find out how, oh, look, a duplicate picture. Those are all areas where we're going to get air leakage into our building. Here's plumbing. A lot of times plumbing, just because of the fact that it is just fitting in a wall cavity, construction isn't perfect. So we're going to get air leakage through this cut in the sheathing. And then also, if this isn't sealed up, if the foundation isn't sealed up with concrete, we'll get air leakage through there. So here it would be adding concrete into this hole to fill that in. And then you can use a lot of different products. You can use closed cell spray foam here. You could pack it with putty, like a fire stop putty, to air seal this back up. Or you can use, if this is going to be behind brick, you can also use another piece of sheathing and go right over the top of it and just make sure that it is well sealed to the sheathing that you're going over. Same with this gap right here. We could have put another piece of sheathing over the top if this is going to be brick. If it's going to be sided, that gets a little more complicated. Here's some existing buildings. This one is an older building that needs some maintenance on its fascia and soffit area. We have a gap right here where we're not only getting air leakage, but when I was out there was a family of birds living in there. So you need to look close at all your surfaces when you're doing your maintenance. Dryer vents or any kind of vent coming out through the brick, that's another spot. Somebody made an attempt to seal up here and it went around the other side, but on this side they didn't. On the side closest to us here, they didn't get that sealed up. These three pictures over on the right-hand side here are of a brand new building. They needed to do some coring to get some vents into an apartment. I believe it was for the mechanical system. And you can see where they drilled the three holes right here. And here's two of the holes. So they drilled right through the siding, through the brick, and then through the sheathing. The problem is we got this 2-inch gap right here between this trim piece and the brick. We got to figure out a way to get air sealing in to be able to air seal those holes once the vents are put in. And then here's, like I was saying earlier, air can move through a building very easily through all the penetration. So in this upper left picture here, towards the left-hand side of it, that's an exterior wall, and then the right-hand side of the picture is an interior wall. And we can see how the wiring, the penetrations or the holes that the electrician has to make for the wiring to move through, to be pulled through, allows for air to move through an interior wall. And then this is behind it is a bathtub. It'll be able to move all around that bathtub and come out into the bathroom or anywhere else. Here's how it moves through plumbing. This is a large hole here for the plumber to be able to get his vent stack in. You need to be able to, so you need to use the right materials. Here, for the picture in the upper left, we can use caulk and just caulk these holes up. For this one, I would probably try and use something to close off this hole, like a piece of cardboard or plywood, and then seal that to the 2x4 itself. Here's a piece of plumbing on the interior where it didn't allow the drywall to come down and through. Here, have a drywaller use drywall mud to pack in around that. Or you could also use closed cell spray foam, but that's not going to look as nice. And then here, sometimes on construction, our drywall just is not going to come all the way down to the floor. On the right-hand side of this picture here is a piece of trim. And you can see, it's kind of hard to tell, it's not the best picture, but the trim is off the trim is fastened to the oops, hang on a second. Okay, trim is fastened to the drywall and it's being held a 1/2 inch off the bottom plate of this wall assembly here. So we would need to seal this while either seal the drywall, this gap here, or seal the gap between the trim and the bottom plate. And you can use backer rod or a foam gasket of some sort there. As you're going around doing routine maintenance on buildings, just kind of keep an eye out. Here's it's up high, but we still get air leakage. Now this is going to come in through the ceiling assembly. We need to repair this, and this is going to be it's gotten some pretty significant water damage. So that's going to be a pretty, not complicated, but you're going to have to get a trim carpenter or cider or someone in to repair the water damage first. This is on a single family home, but we still have the same concept here, with the siding being peeled away, and there was a chipmunk living inside the home here. So they're going to need to reside this. You can see the bottom, this is wood siding. You can see the bottom is being damaged by water here. So that's just going to get worse over time. And then going around, and caulk is not a one and do it once and forget it. So here in this window, it's a garden window. We have caulk that needs to be repaired underneath the window assembly. In a lot of older buildings, we have baseboard radiant heat, and this is hydronic. So this is kind of to the right-hand side of the picture here. We have the hot water line coming into the radiator. So again, that could be filled with fire stop caulk. So you want something that can handle, make sure it can handle the heat of the that's coming through that pipe right there. Then in the envelope, in a lot of older buildings have window unit air conditioners that are mounted in a sleeve. These are extremely leaky at the unit as a whole. And then here, this picture with the tape measure, you can see in the back, that's daylight back there. And the sleeve itself is they did a good job of centering it on the left and the right side, and the top, it was a uniform 1 inch all the way around, allowing air to flow in. We can use a backer rod, or yeah, that would probably be the easiest, would be to use a backer rod going all the way around that to stop air leakage. The picture kind of in the top middle here, that is an existing building. That's the way that I found the plumbing. So I believe that I think this was a HVAC. I think this was furnace, a new furnace had been put in, and the HVAC company just blew through the drywall. Just cut the drywall out to get their vent stacks in. They're gonna have to get a drywaller in to figure out how to, not to figure out, but to put drywall around this and then seal up tight to those PVC pipes. Same with this in the upper right picture. Same with that. We're going to have all sorts of air coming through there. Same thing, kind of. That one you might be able to use just drywall mud and to fill that in. But it's going to be, I would get with a drywall professional on that. And then I see all sorts of weird things. This middle picture in the bottom, they air sealed around all sides except for this, foot and a half along the backside here. They could have used the same material. That's a fire stop, and just sealed that up, and it would have been good. Here, this lower right picture, the drywaller got, and this is very common. They don't want to cut a piece of drywall to try and fit between here. But we need that to be filled. The fibrous insulation is not an air stop. It's not an air barrier. So here's some of the materials that you can use to seal up things. A high quality caulk, and so I like the big stretch because it'll stretch. I think they say like 10%, but it does last a long time. But then make sure that it is also set for where you're using it. So this is for windows and doors, but make sure it's interior. If you're, obviously if you're using it inside, make sure it's approved for interior use. Like this Lexel over here has a very high VOC, and it's going to smell for quite a while. And then make sure it's approved for use outdoors if you're using it out there. This is the backer rod I was talking about. You can buy it in different diameters. I've seen it as big as 3 inches in diameter, but you can use that to go around to fill a lot of different things. Like I was saying, the window air conditioner there in the sleeve. Here are examples where we got fire barrier being used as an air stop for plumbing. Plumbing penetrations. And then this blue plate here, that's called quick flash. That can be used to seal. So usually when a plumber or electrician puts something through a wall, they're going to use a drill bit that is significantly larger than what's going through there. The nice thing about this quick flash is it seals, as you can see, it's sealing around the plumbing, but there's probably a 1/2 inch gap all the way around that pipe, that now that quick flash is sealing that hole tight. And then they're using the fire stop here to seal other electrical penetrations coming through. Fire caulk or fire barrier sealant is a bit more expensive than caulk. So if you don't have to use it, like here on the plumbing, they didn't have to use fire caulk there. They could have used regular caulk, and it would have been a little less expensive. The other area that causes leaks in a building is not only the wind outside, but it is also your HVAC system. And although these illustrations on the left-hand side here are showing the air handler and the duct system in an unconditioned attic. This will even forced air systems that are fully within the conditioned space can cause a building to leak. And so when we have return duct leakage or leakage on the dominant leakage on the return side, we're going to force the building to pressurize. And I can spend some time going through that if somebody is interested, but there's really no need to do it right now. But anyways, it pressurizes the building and forces it to leak, pushing the conditioned air out. And then on the supply side, we're going to negatively pressurize. We're going to depressurize the building, again, forcing it to leak and draw unconditioned air to the inside. So we want to make sure and get our duct systems as sealed as possible, as tight as possible, not only for the air leakage rate, but then we're also getting conditioned air where it needs to be in the building or in the unit. Here's some ways to seal a duct up. If you have ducts in unconditioned attic, I'm a big fan of using closed cell spray foam to insulate and air seal that duct system all the way down to the ceiling plane. It provides a great insulator, it's a great air sealer, and it'll help with condensation issues during the air conditioning season, the cooling season. Then here's the photo in the upper right and the one just down to the left of it. That's using duct mastic. That's applied by hand. It's relatively inexpensive, but it is labor intensive to seal ducts that way. And then this photo in the lower right-hand corner is called AeroSeal. They aerosolize a polymer and blow it into the duct system under pressure. It will find leaks that are in the duct system up to, I believe it's 5/8 of an inch in diameter, and it'll seal it up. And basically they just run the equipment. They're constantly monitoring the air leakage in the system. And they monitor it until they get down to whatever the target is to get the duct system sealed. Other things that'll cause your building to leak: atmospherically drafted appliances or mechanical systems. This is an atmospherically drafted water heater. This is an atmospherically drafted furnace. Both of those use air inside the building for combustion and to help the exhaust gases go up the chimney. So every cubic foot of air that goes out, for whatever reason, a cubic foot of air has to come in. And then the other thing is your clothes dryer also exhausts conditioned air out of the building. So when it's time to replace your atmospherically drafted appliances, either go to, if possible, go to an all-electric air source heat pump. That just removes all the connections to outside. And you can go to, for dryers, you can go to a ventless condensing or air source or heat pump dryer. And then that removes that possibility. Air is hard to figure out where it's going. Like I said earlier, it does take the path of least resistance. Here are some of the tools that you can use for finding air leaks. So these top three right here are all smoke generators. The smoke pen is the least expensive, is at about $40, but you do basically light it on fire. It smokes like a cigarette would. This one down to the left of the smoke pen is just a small smoke generator. That's about, I think, $80 or $90. It's under $100. This one to the right of the smoke pen will put out a lot of smoke. It is a handheld unit, but it is right around $900. You can do just fine with these two items here, finding leaks. And the way you're going to do that, so this is my blower door here, installed, and I can either pressurize or depressurize a unit. If I'm using smoke to find air leaks, I'm going to depressurize the unit, and then go around with the smoke pen, and wherever the smoke goes into a wall, it's going outside somewhere. So we're gonna seal that wall at that location. You can use like a floor dryer installed in a door. And the way that I would do that is I would use, these are called third hand holes. You can use these to set up a temporary block in the door here, and then install your fan. You do want the plastic or whatever you're using to seal the door off. You do want that to be taped to the drywall or to the door frame. If you're doing this on a lot of units or a lot of doors, I would go to you can have a cloth made that'll fit doors, and then it's reusable. And they can make it so it has an opening that fits whatever floor dryer or whatever fan you're using. And then if you're depressurizing, if there's a big enough temperature differential, you can use an infrared camera. They have plugins for cell phones, both Apple and Androids. Those are, depending on the quality, they can be as expensive. I've seen them as expensive as $450, $500. This camera right here gets up to about the $600 range, and then we're up at around $1,000 with this camera here. Here's some images of thermal imaging. You can see where we have the drywall. There's leaking between the ceiling plane and the drywall here, and then also around the window frame. We have air leakage at the attic hatch, so you can use a gasket, a thin foam gasket, 3/8 of an inch, 1/4 inch gasket to seal that. Caulk. You can caulk the trim to the drywall, just make sure you go around all sides. Usually if you hire your painter or someone to do that, they don't caulk at the top or the bottom of the window because nobody can see it, or doors. So make sure that you tell them to caulk up at the top of the door or window, and also the bottom. And then here's air movement through a wall assembly. So this is a second floor room, unconditioned attic up above, and we have air leakage through the top plates of the walls. And then here's air leakage through a cathedral ceiling with a fake ridge beam coming down the attic plane or the ceiling plane. These are just two for your resources. These are two training centers, training companies for infrared. There is a bit to using it, but I would encourage you, if you're gonna purchase the equipment, I would encourage you to have whoever's going to be using it be properly trained in its use. And then getting into the insulation. So wherever you have a chance to improve insulation, I would encourage it. The picture's on the right here. So if you're redoing a kitchen or a bathroom and you're removing drywall, I would actually, if you're redoing the bathroom or a kitchen, I would encourage you to remove the drywall and insulate where you can, and then put the drywall back up. It's a relatively inexpensive thing at the time of construction. And then up in your attics, remove all the old insulation. There's insulation companies will come and they'll just vacuum it out. And then that way you can see really well what you're up against and what you need to do to air seal the ceiling plane before you insulate, and then re-insulate with as much insulation as you can. Once you have a insulation technician up there installing insulation, it's relatively inexpensive to go from say 40 to R60. They're already there and doing the work. If you have a parking area underneath your building, you need to be careful on insulation, so that you do not isolate plumbing that might be in the ceiling assembly above the parking and below the floor of the apartment above. If you isolate it, you're going to have freezing issues. So just make sure that you consult with someone that can talk you through. And then appliances, when you're replacing them, Energy Star. So refrigerators, freezers, whatever is on washers, dryers, whatever's on the Energy Star website, and they're constantly updating their criteria. And then when you're doing ranges, if possible, replace with an induction range. It's significantly more energy efficient than gas. It is more, 20% more or more, 25% more energy efficient than just your standard electric resistance range. And it's a lot safer. So people are not going to get burned. They're going to know that they're setting their hand or whatever on a burner that's been in use, but it generally speaking will not burn them. And then your plumbing real quick, replace all your plumbing with WaterSense. The shower head and the valve here on the left-hand side, those are thermostatic valves. So what happens is when someone turns on the shower, the valve automatically turns the shower down to a trickle as soon as hot water gets to it. And then they just pull the cord, take their shower, and they're done. For other faucets, you can replace the aerator. You don't have to necessarily replace the entire faucet. Or you can replace the entire faucet. Bathrooms can easily use 0.5 gallons per minute on the faucet. And then WaterSense toilets, they've come a long way since the low flow toilets first came out. So these are great now. They're able to flush just about anything you throw at them within reason. And then real quick, just mechanical systems. This is actually a furnace, and I'm using air quotes when I say furnace, that I was in a house in Detroit that I did an energy audit on. So when you have the opportunity to upgrade your systems, do so. So there, I encourage them to go with an air source heat pump, depending on what system you have. So this picture kind of on the lower left here, that's a big boiler. Right now, there's not many boilers out that can be replaced with air source heat pumps. I'm sorry, there's not many air source heat pumps that are able to replace boilers. There's at least one on the market. I think Mitsubishi has it. But just kind of do your research. And then the other thing I can say is have all of your equipment properly sized. So have someone do the calculations. I did an energy audit on a house in Detroit. They needed their boiler replaced. The company wanted to do a BTU for BTU replacement, and that was going to be a $45,000 replacement. After I did the load calculations, it came in that the boiler could be half as big, and it saved them $20,000, a little over $20,000. This picture at the bottom in the middle, if you have furnaces or ductwork, same with the picture on the top, that are in unconditioned attics, do what you can to get that into conditioned space. That's going to go a long way towards reducing your energy use. You have to overcome all the cold or the heat that the duct system has built up in it when this thing starts up. And then here's this picture in the top middle here. That's a big hole in an air conditioning duct. And there's another one up top here that I just noticed. So make sure that all those get sealed. That was blowing air conditioning, cold air into the attic space. Same with your water heater. Replace that with an air source heat pump. They're significantly more efficient than gas and electric resistance. And then same if you got split systems. That is it. There will be a checklist coming out for when you do turnovers. We'll have that hopefully here in the next sometime next week. But if you have anything that you need added to it for a special, we can do that for special circumstances. Or if you got any questions, if they should look at, your folks that do the turnover should look into things. So went a little long. My apologies, Jan.
That's okay. You're good. Yeah. So if anyone has a question, go ahead and raise your hand and you can ask away. If not, we'll just kind of continue on. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and right.
And
You see this okay?
Your presentation we're only seeing the top, the header. We're not seeing the whole thing. There it is.
Okay, great. All right. So anyway, yeah, thanks to everyone who joined. And I wanted to make sure everyone knows that we are now Ann Arbor, Washtenaw 2030 district. And so we are serving the entire county. And just sort of an update, many of you realize that Ann Arbor has a commercial benchmarking ordinance, and this year it drops down to any parcel with building total square footage over 20,000 square feet must benchmark annually. And June 1st is the deadline. And if you haven't started, get started now. And the 2030 district provides benchmarking help for members for free. And we also have access to the aggregated energy data from a DTE, and we have an arrangement to get it from Constellation too, if you happen to use them for gas. Just to give you an idea, we're starting to get some really good comparison data of EUIs, and that's the energy use intensity of buildings. And what that basically is, your annual use in a unit called a KBTU per square foot per year. And this is as Ann Arbor starts doing the transparency for their benchmarking ordinance, the EUIs are what will be published. So if folks are interested in where they stand, this is sort of the national median reference value for which is about just under 60 KBTUs per square foot. We have a full range from 100 all the way down to about 34. Most of the newer buildings tend to be in the 30s, and we've got a whole slew of buildings that are well above 60. So one of the things that in preparation for having EUI transparency, if you're benchmarking, if you want to save some money, if you want to start preparing for the green rental housing ordinance, all of the things that Kevin went over are important to lower your EUI and also get better scores as you're doing your certificate of compliance for the green rental housing ordinance. And that has not been published yet. But weatherization, insulation, electrification, Energy Star appliances, all those things are going to be important elements. So the other thing that we'll be working on is if you have more than one building on, we can also compare your building to others anonymously. So you can kind of get an idea of where you stand. The other thing that's new with benchmarking is we are now on the same software that the city uses. And this is actually the same software I think that the city of Detroit's going to use, and it's Beam. And what this does is on the dashboard, I can see all of the buildings that are in Energy Star Portfolio Manager. And for the year 2023, if you're missing water data, if you're missing energy data, if your EUI seems to be too low, if it's flagged because it's really high, and it really helps us to help you do a good job making sure your data is complete, and kind of do any kind of quality control check before the benchmarking deadline. The other thing is if you have several buildings and you want to do some monitoring on your own, I can arrange for you to have access to your buildings on the Beam dashboard. As we're looking at where we're going and what we're trying to accomplish, we want to, benchmarking is step one, conduct an energy audit or an energy assessment. We're looking at improving energy efficiency, and then finally transitioning to renewable energy. The resources that the 2030 district provides is we do have an energy management grant program. We have $85,000 budgeted for this grant program in 2024. Every member is eligible. It depends how large your building is, how many buildings you have, what the grant is. If you have not used your grant, come talk to me. The other thing, and I think Doug, you're on, Doug Kelly is our contact with the DTE multifamily program. And Doug, if you want to say a few words about that program, you're welcome to do that.
Hi, thanks, Jan. As Jan mentioned, my name is Doug Kelly. I work for the DTE multifamily program. And pretty much what Jan was talking about, upgrading your buildings, apartment buildings, townhomes, stuff like that. That's what the DTE multifamily program is designed for. We'll be able to actually, with your upgrades, be able to give you a rebate incentive So to keep things, so it's not overabundance of information thrown at you, I can actually provide a link that would actually directly right to the DTE multifamily program website. And then in the process, I can actually leave my email address as well. So even if you're not in my area, which is most of the Ann Arbor, Washtenaw area, we have a team that has pretty much covered the whole state of Michigan. So even if it's not in my area, but you are a DTE customer, whether it be your gas and or electric utility bills, you are actually eligible for those incentives. Sometimes we have a situation where you get a DTE bill, but it's actually paid out to another company. There's ways we can actually work with that as well. So if you ever have any questions, whether you'd be approved or can be accepted or eligible for the program, that's why I'll leave my email address. You can reach out at any time.
Great, thank you. And one thing that people may not be aware of is there are two rebate schedules with DTE. One is a low income and then their regular program. And this is a map of the HUD income qualified areas in the city of Ann Arbor. So if your building is in one of these areas, you might want to contact Doug and find out if you're eligible for the low income rebate schedule, because the rebates are significantly higher for income qualified buildings. The other thing, and this is something you can take advantage of, or you can also share this link with your tenants. The DTE Marketplace has smart home bulbs and thermostats. They have lighting outlets. They have insulation, water devices, air purifiers, all at a very significantly discounted rate. And they've given us the code AA2030 that you can use through March 31st for free shipping. Just a little thank you for attending. And then the other thing on our website, we do have a toolkit for tenant engagement. There are some tips in there for landlords, tenants. There are some tips for move in, move out, like what to do with all the stuff that you may not want to take with you, and other sorts of resources and seasonal tips. There are some posters that you can print out. And again, this is available on our website. We will include a link and the document along with the checklist. And these are things that you could actually rebrand and use as a tenant welcome kit or put on your website for tenant resources. The other thing that is good for you to know, and also for your tenants to know, it's very easy to enroll in Michigan-made renewable energy with DTE's My Green Power program. And I'm not doing this as an advertisement. I enroll. This is a great way to reduce slightly your monthly cost, but it supports renewable energy and thus reducing our greenhouse gas emissions. It also sends a clear message to DTE that people are interested in being powered with renewable energy. This is a voluntary program. You can enroll whenever you want. This is just where you'll find our webpage for the multifamily group on our website. We try and keep things updated and include resources that you might find useful. So hopefully you can go to our website, just go to the member groups and select the group of resources that you're interested in. And just as a little bit of an ad, we are going to be having our in-person event June 26th at Washtenaw Intermediate School District. We'll start out with workshops specific for different building uses and have some food and some fun and a very short program with some awards for our top performing buildings and those who are, have accomplished reducing greenhouse gas emissions, transportation emissions, whatever. So I hope you'll join us. And with that, I'll stop sharing. And I see Craig, you have a question. Go ahead and unmute yourself and go ahead.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. My name is Craig Thompson. I'm also with the DT multifamily energy efficiency program. I'm one of the energy efficiency concierge, and a couple of things to add to what Doug was saying. One is any property that is receiving LIHTC credit is also eligible for our income qualified program, or other tax assisted assistance, such as rural development, for example. So they would also do that. Secondly, you were talking about the City of Ann Arbor fund helping to fund ASHRAE Level 2 audits for any income qualified property. DTE also has a rebate towards ASHRAE Level 2 audits. So there's plenty of money available to get those done.
That's great news. Thank you for adding that. All right. And we have a question. Will this presentation be shared? Okay, yes. Everyone who is registered will get a link to the recording as well as the presentations, and you're welcome to contact us if you have, some questions. Also, if you are interested, your energy management grant could go to, we could have Kevin do a specific training for your maintenance folks. That's in my mind, a great use of that energy management grant for multifamily folks. So any other questions, any other additions? All right, anything you want to add, Kevin?
No, other than, there are, so getting to the financial side, there's rebates that are available. There's get with your tax professionals. There's items there. I have been involved in some refinancing of multifamily where they need to do air sealing, targeted air sealing. So there's reasons to do it, and plenty of incentives out there to do it.
Okay, well, thank you very much. And it's enjoy some sunshine, even though it's not quite as warm. And the other question I have for folks is, if anyone has a thought for those workshops on for the end of June, if you'd like a specific topic addressed for the multifamily group, we're all ears for that. You can email.
With O'Brien Construction, talking about the project in Detroit called La Jolla.
Are you talking to us, Craig?
I am not. Sorry about that.
Okay, that's okay. Okay, I couldn't quite tell. All right, so if anyone has any ideas or any needs, we'd be glad to address those. If they have the green rental housing ordinance published by that time, that certainly would be one of the first priority topics. So thank you everyone for attending, and look for the checklist, the presentation, and the recording. We should be able to get that out no later than Monday. So thanks again, and enjoy the rest of your day. Take care.
Thanks.